Welcome to day 2 of my Shekhawati trip. So on the second day I headed out to the town of Nawalgarh. So what we did was kind of a little road trip where we first went to Nawalgarh on Thakur Maheshwar Ji's recommendation along with Rajesh Ji and his team of guides. So we first headed to Nawalgarh and the plan was to cover Mandawa on the way back. So in Nawalgarh we covered a few Havelis. So particularly the style is a little newer as compared to Ramgarh and Mahansar. So the Havelis are brighter, you would see some different patterns. And as the Havelis represent the group or the merchants or the traders that built them, the Havelis have that kind of an imprint of what they were looking for. So in these Havelis, there are some patterns of elements that you would see recurring, like a Tibari or this three pillar kind of place where they would conduct the trade. Some of them have different sizes of pillars. So in this Haveli, you can see the pillar size is very long. And while traveling around these Havelis, I also noticed the local life, and it was quite quaint. And one popular Haveli here is the Podar Haveli, and the Podar Haveli is different because it has a lot of museums and it's a little, the upkeep is very high. Other than that, the other Havelis are also very pretty here. So we went to the Kamal Murarka Haveli. What I liked particularly was the view from the terrace, where you would see the chhatris, and there's these Havelis have this very prominent element of this animal shelter. That's where there would be a large door, and all the animals and horses and cattle would enter from, and all the terraces are joined. So that's a pretty cool element, and it takes me back to towns like Jaipur. Then we went to the Ramat Podar Haveli, which is, like I said, it's the most popular spot of Nawalgarh, and there's a high ticket price too. As you can see, the colors are very prominent. The art itself is great to look at, and you can easily spend a couple of hours at the Ramnath Podar Haveli. Um, what I liked here was the different sections have different elements. There was an entire section dedicated to the art schools of Rajasthan. There was one dedicated to the different architecture of the forts of Rajasthan. So there are these miniatures of different forts. And if you want to check out these videos, do check out the short section of my channel. You would find those small videos that I've shot there. And one very striking element of this Haveli was the coexistence of Victorian kind of colors and structure on the first floor, and then at the bottom area you would see the typical Indian and Rajasthani elements. So after spending a good amount of time at the Ramnath Podar Haveli, we headed out. We were just checking out the local streets, which is something I always like to do because the local life can actually be felt on the road when you get a chai. So we were outside an abandoned Haveli, and even that Haveli, though it didn't have a name, like to visit, it had a lot of life there. So here is Rajesh ji with some of his guide friends, and there was lot of local life which I liked, like the street food, the local sellers, people on different bikes and so on, which was really pretty to look at. After that, we headed to Vivana Museum Hotel. It's a property near Nawalgarh for lunch. Then we headed to Dunlod Fort. So this gave me a typical impression of the forts, something like Ramgarh or Nahargarh. Dunlod Fort is famous for the passion of horse riding of the owners. So the fort too had that very classy royal kind of element with horse riding club, things like a mini library, which I was really fascinated with because the library that you see here has newer books, but on the inside of the fort there was an entire library, and I've shot a small short video of that on my other channel. Here is the entrance to the fort. It was very nice and sunny. We then finally headed to Mandawa, where we went to Mandawa Koti and met the owner Piyush Ji. This is the place where a lot of films have been shot on the outdoors, and this is their backyard, which was very pretty. And Mandawa Koti blends in like elements of traditional architecture along with newer design touches. So it will feel like something very cozy and comfortable, while you'll also be able to soak up the traditional kind of look of these places. So this was Mandawa Koti. Now, a thing about Mandawa is that a lot of Bollywood films are shot here. So if you are good with your Bollywood trivia of films like PK, Bajrangi Bhaijaan, Mimi, and some of the web series, then you'll really be able to correlate those scenes with the locations here. Unfortunately, I didn't remember much of these films. The only film I'm really fond of is Mimi. So I was able to correlate some of the sequences shot outside the Mandava Koti and some of the songs of Mimi. Now, so stone's throw away from this place, there is also the actual house in which the Mimi movie was shot. Almost 50% film was shot there. Along this road trip, we also headed to another property of Vivana, which is their signature property. Now, this is the outdoors of the Mandava Koti, and this is the location where Mimi shot song Rihai De was shot. So you can see these kind of airy passages and these pretty ornate wrought iron work on the grills, and the very pretty windows that are there. So this was a place that we really enjoyed. And given that it was late evening or about to be late evening, we just this is the house that I was talking about where Mimi the movie was shot, most of it. This is the road on which few scenes are shot in the beginning at night. We then headed to Jhunjhunwala Haveli, which is famous for a very ornate room, which has a lot of artifacts and very pretty art, and it was also particularly significant because of the gold plating. Usually, you would see frescoes wherein the gold element is used, but here the gold element is used as a plating, which was very interesting. And you can easily spend around half an hour here. We headed out and checked out the streets, and finally, we headed to Goenka Double Haveli, which is kind of known to be a haunted Haveli, but then we finally closed in on our Haveli tour with another Haveli that was selling some of the artifacts. So it was very typical touristy stuff, but the Haveli itself was quite pretty. Then it was time to wrap up the day with the few famous laddus from Moti Halwai. Then I headed back to Mahansar Fort, and this is the next morning of my day three, where the day and the trip was pretty much wrapping up. And again, beautiful sunrises and the sunrise and the chants of temples nearby. I was able to reflect back on all the places that I'd visited. Now, Shekhawati tends to be a lot and very overwhelming when you are visiting there, but be sure to insert in these quiet moments where you can just be with yourself and just soak in the entire insights and information that you witness in this region. So in this short trip I covered uh, 3 4 places. So I covered Mahansar, Ramgarh, Shekhawati, um, Nawalgarh and Mandawa. So I would say I've barely covered like 30 40% of Shekhawati. There's many more trips that can be done here, but again I would really take back a lot of happy memories from this trip. And once this uh, stay of mine was over from Mahansar, I headed back to Churu. So this time I planned everything through just Google searches. So the train that I had taken to Shekhawati was from Jaipur to Ramgarh, but I headed back from Churu to Jaipur. So again, a very pretty auto ride took me to Churu railway station, which was undergoing some renovation. But I sat on a secluded platform, read a book, and headed back to Jaipur. So thanks for watching.